what's going on, everybody?
Hello, hello.
What's up? Season's greetings.
Season's greetings.
yeah,
Holiday season's greetings.
It's getting colder. Things are getting more festive. We're around. So
yeah, in Kentucky, we experience all of every season.
yeah. Oh, we get it. So I think we have a
Too
little
hot, too cold,
yeah,
too rainy, too snowy.
yeah, all of it.
All
It's
of
the full kit. So very
Yeah.
cool. Side note: I forgot the in-ears, so got the cans
Oh, yeah.
just like the pioneers did. So
Nick looks like a big nerd if you're watching.
no, it's
Because he
great.
forgot his in-ears.
I'll look sick, is what it is.
Yeah, it's almost like somebody texted him this morning and said, "Hey man, don't forget your in-ears."
Yeah, after I had left my house. So, yeah, man, no, we're glad to be in the studio, shooting another pod. So,
Yeah, it's been a minute. So we have a wonderful guest here, Eliana Athayde, and I got to see her play with Madison Cunningham at the Burl a little while ago, which was super cool.
Sweet venue in Lexington.
Great venue. Yeah, I played with an artist, Abby Hamilton, and we played probably 3 spots up. It was like us, then like Raylan Baxter, and then Madison and the crew. And then I kind of realized from there, like, oh, I had seen her in some other stuff, like a Pomplamoose thing and some other stuff that was floating around. So I was like, oh man, she'd be wonderful to ask. And here she is.
Hello.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, super pumped to talk to you. That night, yeah, I was just super impressed with your playing. Loved the tone. It was a great night. Outside, Burl outside is great.
Oh yeah, I think I was in some rural part of the eastern side of the U.S.
playing a
and he
country
was texting me
game.
like, "Dude,
This is great.
this is awesome, man."
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so I
mean,
heard
we're-
good things.
Were you already familiar with Madison Cunningham?
Yeah, in my like, I use Apple Music. He makes fun of me for using Apple Music. I like Apple. In my like fake Spotify replay wrapped thing,
Yeah.
Madison was like top 3.
Totally.
Amazing musician. Love
She's
her.
amazing.
Amazing songs. But I also am very infatuated with Tyler Chester's production. He produced that album, and I just am kind of a recording nerd. And so like all aspects of that album were done so amazingly that I was like, okay, well, I have to see her. We played Bonnaroo last year, and Madison also played, and we played the same stage, but we like missed each other. And somebody forgot to put my tag for my car like in the like RTM or something. There's a mix up, so they wouldn't let me in to Bonnaroo yet, and I missed Madison's set. So super bummed out, but was fun to open / support the show.
Yeah, you guys were very much like the talk of the county fair. That
Sick. Yeah.
Everyone was like, it's not a county fair. I was also told it's like not Burl County. I don't know.
Oh no, neither.
No. It was
No.
like
0 for 2 on the name.
it's kind of meta. There's like I'll call it like an alternative country thing that's kind of happening in Lexington, Eastern Kentucky, West Virginia, that kind of thing, where it's very like kind of has a very anti-establishment bend.
Okay.
And the Burl has kind of been one of those venues that's very like, I don't know, is very representative of the movement. So it was kind of a play on like a country county fair thing.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
it was a lot
great.
of indie. Yeah.
It
It was the first one they did, which was cool. Yeah.
Well, that was also my first show with Madison.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And I had come off, another person I play with is Tim Heidecker. And I had finished a tour with him and then had like 10 days off before Madison's tour started. Her regular bass player is this guy named Daniel Ryan, who's just like,
who's
so
fantastic as well. Yeah.
I love him. And so I kind of had like some of their rehearsal recordings, I had the albums. And then I think we did, I can't remember if we did 1 or 2 rehearsals, but it was very like, we had this really limited window because Madison was also like, well, I got to go to London for 3 days and then I got to come, like she's just nonstop. She's,
Dude,
I
nonstop.
For an hour.
I couldn't do that.
Plus
I don't
about
know.
just her being amazing. But yeah, that was our first show, and I can still remember the mistakes I made. It was so first show with the new touring act is
Yeah.
always a little stressful. I would say first like 5 shows, maybe, depending on the music, is kind of like, all right, I know I'm going to mess up, but what's it going to be? Like, it could be anything.
Yeah.
Whereas once I get in the flow, I'm like, I can,
It's just repetition after that.
I can guarantee I'm probably not going to have like huge mistakes. But man, that show, I was nervous. I was excited.
Well, as someone who knows the record pretty well, I didn't notice any mistakes. So
great.
All right.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It was wonderful to hear.
My dad is a great teacher, and he always said, like, you should smile when you make a mistake or like laugh at yourself, because at the very moment that you have messed up, somebody in the audience is going to be like, oh, they're smiling. I love that.
Oh, that's funny. Counterbalance it.
So, that's my secret. I just laugh at myself when I make a mistake.
That's awesome.
I think I do instinctually as well, but it's a saving face.
Yeah.
Like, I laughed a lot our last gig together.
Yeah, funny. Yeah. No, it's funny because you talk about kind of joining that new gig. It's really interesting to be like the new person in it, because there's all these, like, it's one thing to learn a record, right? But it's another thing to learn the way they do it, right?
Totally
different. These little, I don't want to call them like isms, but these little like, oh yeah, we always do that. We don't even think twice about it.
Yeah.
Because when you think about, like, I've been with the same camp for 3 years, so I'm like, we just do things that are 100% not the record, and I have no idea. I don't even know. So yeah, you're right. There's always going to be that one thing, right?
It is kind of weird too when a fill-in person shows up and you realize as a band how far you've drifted from that. And then if the person really did their homework and played the right thing, you're like, oh no, I didn't warn the person of the other right thing to play.
Totally. And I mean, I will say about Madison, like, a quality I super admire about her is she is kind of on this like never ending journey towards making the thing better. Like, she's just so about the music and so dedicated to making it really, really good. And so definitely I can see with her music that, like, she gives things space to grow, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Because some artists don't. Cool. I've definitely worked with artists who are kind of like, learn the record verbatim, do not deviate. And it's like, that's fine as well. But I do really like that Madison gives the music space to grow. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I see. And it especially gets complicated if tracks are involved.
Oh yeah.
So
I gotta say, I sort of had a recent life, I don't know if epiphany is not the right word because it's not that grand, but like I was sort of considering what to say yes to and what to pass on for, I guess, for this past year of touring. And there was something that involved like a lot of tracks. And I was kind of like, I don't think that's for me. I think I really find so much joy in like the fluidity of playing with people. I mean, many of my friends are making amazing music with tracks. It's definitely not a diss on tracks, but I realized kind of for me, I was like, at this moment in my life, that was kind of something I wanted to steer away from.
Yeah. Yeah.
But call me for your gigs with tracks. No, I'm kidding. Don't. Probably.
Yeah, let me decide if I want to take that gig or not. You should still call me.
Nice.
Yeah, I have a lot of background experience playing with tracks. I had kind of a mega church background for a little while, and then have kind of done the exact opposite now, where it's kind of jumping into like a organic country thing, or like reapproaching some of that stuff without being tied to click or without being tied to whatever, and kind of finding that in between has been really fun and really like freeing, where it's like, hey, I kind of grew up, it's almost like an incubator. I kind of grew up learning to really play with tracks, and some good stuff came from that. Like for me, click,
you have a great time,
click is second nature. Like I totally never have to think about click, but there are a lot of things I didn't get that I'm having to kind of relearn now that I'm a little older, like Nashville Numbers was really weird for me to start hearing the 1, the 5, you know?
Yeah.
Where I just at some point was like turn my mind off and would just play what's on the page because it's gonna exactly come out with a click, and started really struggling with memorizing big sections because I was so used to playing off a page, or you know, when I was doing like jazz or that kind of stuff, it was never like real jazz. So I would just like read sheet music off the page, and I realized that I had neglected a lot of here's how to memorize a song, here's how to think about the big picture of a song as you're playing it.
Totally.
And it seemed almost like thinking kind of like an acoustic guitar player.
Sure.
Because they're not thinking of a note, they're thinking of a lot of notes, or a keys player, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's been interesting.
I mean, I grew up doing a ton of jazz, upright. I'm originally an upright bass player who has been called more and more for electric bass, to the point where now I'm like, I have 6 electric basses and I play, 10 upright gigs a year. I guess I'm an electric bass player. But I grew up playing jazz and classical, and like my dad, jazz pianist, really forced me to learn things by ear, which I'm so grateful for. But it is interesting, like, if you give me a piece of paper and tell me to learn the music that way, it's going to take me forever to get off book, as opposed to if you just teach it to me by ear. It's almost like a different part of your brain.
It absolutely is.
Engages. And then there's an even different part of the brain that, like, I love charting out music. That's a real like Zen time for me. I'm like, I don't have any of the music notation programs. I really should, but like, I love just like sitting down with some graph paper and getting like real Zen about making a chart, That's like a whole other side of your brain. It's just interesting the way we memorize music.
Yeah. I've always been weird about what I remember, what I don't remember. And I do think it kind of comes down to person.
Yeah.
Like Nick over here, I've observed him not have that issue at all. And I've been like, dude, I wouldn't be like that.
Are you a fast learner? What's going on over there?
No, I just used to use Finale quite a bit. I also have a church background, so I'm pretty quick with slash charts and whatnot. And then
Nick's a great guitar player too. Like, not only is he an insane bassist, he's a great electric guitar player and singer.
Which one did you come to first? Are you a guitar player who became a bass player, or?
Yeah, no, I was like the youngest guitar player in the group, so they were like, somebody's got to play bass, okay?
Well, you also played like, what, trumpet or something in marching band?
Yeah, I did like the band stuff through school, so that was really good for like actual like written notation, but like I hated it. So I kept switching. So like I played like, I did like a year of sousaphone, I did like a year of trombone. Like I just like, I was always switching, so I got to read all parts, I got to sit in all parts of like the greater chord, and that was really good for me. I don't know, it just different things. So by this point, I'm with you now, because all I'll do anymore is just do a little Nashville scratch chart. I've got a little, I use that Notability app, and I've got one of those pencils from my iPad, and I just scratch it through, Look
at you.
That's all I do anymore. So
I love that. I there's something I've been really stuck on in the past, like, I don't know, 5 years of my life is this fact about the bass, particularly the electric bass, that you have 2 lineages of electric bass. You have the lineage that came from like upright players switching to electric, or people who are coming from the role of bass as a function, not as an instrument per se, like playing the bass notes,
Right.
And then you have electric bass that came out of guitar players switching to bass. And I feel like there's a bit of a joke in the bass world about like, guitar player, get off my instrument. Yeah. But it's like, it is a foundational part of, rock music for sure. Yeah. That's something I feel like that's a journey I want to get more on, is like how to approach the electric bass, like from that lineage, like totally. I get how to do it as a like play the roots, hold it down, but I have some friends who are guitar players, and when they play the bass, I'm just like, that's that sound, Carol Kay, Paul McCartney, like there's all these like great bass players who were guitar players, like that's part of our lineage.
I hear a lot of it. Another good example is like if you get called for an artist and that artist has an album from a producer that plays everything, you get a lot of that sound. I hear it a lot as very downbeat focused, sometimes plucky or palm muty, where it almost sounds more percussive sometimes, as opposed to like sometimes laying back and kind of what we would default like groove into. It's like these lines that are a little bit more fast, and maybe they're like that because they're quantized, or they played them in a way that would be like, oh, I'm just going to quantize this later because I'm not a bass player, or it's just that guitar feel, but some really cool parts come out of that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I toured Weyes Blood's Titanic Rising album, and Jonathan Brado's bass lines on that are so cool. I mean, that was an album that I was like, oh, I'm going to play the bass lines verbatim every single night because these are like compositional works of art. But he has that thing where like he's playing in a way that is so free from the inhibitions of being like, I'm the bass player, I need to just play, like he's so melodic, and
this is funny to hear. Yeah, because like I said, I didn't mean to be a bass player, right? I didn't mean to do this. And kind of here I am. So hearing that other side, I'm like, because I always think, man, I wish I was just a bass player. I feel like
I think it's a major asset. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't.
I see both for sure, but I think that is kind of a cool gateway for us. I would love to kind of get into. It seems like you've got everything that you've done. Like you've done kind of all parts of this. So let me get straight. You're LA based. Have you always been LA based?
Yeah, I am originally from right around Berkeley, California, a little town called Orinda. And I came to LA to go to college. I studied like classical and jazz bass at the USC School of Music. And just it kind of immediately started like gigging, bass players. I mean, everyone needs a bass player. So I pretty quickly found a scene out of this wonderful bar in LA called 1642 Beer and Wine. That's like a real haven for great music in on the east side of Los Angeles.
Good to know.
Yeah, if you're ever in LA, that is the place to go. The bar owner, her name is Liz, and she is like a true patron of the arts in a way that, I mean, I've been in LA for 14 years. I spent the first 7 years only doing in-town work, like occasional one-offs, but I really was not a touring musician. And so I've played at every venue there is, kind of up into a certain point. And there's hardly anyone out there who is as dedicated to like really taking care of musicians the way she is.
That's cool to hear.
That's wonderful.
That's my word on 1642 Beer and Wine. Go check it out.
Yeah, we'll check it out. Yeah. That's really cool.
So if with the LA scene, especially like from afar, seeing some of the same session people showing up in studios or in pieces of media, that kind of stuff, what do you think? What are some of the characteristics of your section of the LA music scene?
The scene it's an interesting question because I'm
sure there's many experiences, but on the one hand, my very first, oh, sorry, my little dog's in this room and she's like, do you need to leave me? Could you just hang out? She's a big dog. She's little spiritually. Right.
No, I totally get it.
Me
she's
too.
Gonna go outside.
Big dog, little spiritually.
Anyway, so I kind of started in this scene, coming out of USC. Like Pomplamoose was huge for us. I don't know. It's funny talking about Pomplamoose because sometimes I'm like, the people I hear talking about Pomplamoose don't remember what Pomplamoose did for like internet music, you know,
Right.
like they were
Yeah.
like the first band to do these like split screen, you know, we're bringing you into the bedroom and showing you how we did the thing and we're going to make it funny and weird. And,
Right.
you know, I think it's a thing that a lot of people do now, but I remember so well when I first saw Pomplamoose. It was the Single Ladies video. And, you know, a bunch of jazz school kids were just like, oh, you know, like
Right.
we thought it was so cool.
Yeah.
Because it is. And I have a lot of friends who like kind of went the neo soul route.
Right.
Some very dear friends of mine have a band called Moonchild that's just crushing it.
Oh yeah. They don't have a bass player. They have a
They
bass
don't have a
key.
bass player.
They have their like hit song. It's fantastic.
Oh,
I don't know. It's great.
They're great.
Yeah.
They're great. And kind of at the same time that was going on around me, I kind of got into this scene of like country musicians, but like not slick country, you know, like really kind of like old school outlaw, but not dressed up, you know, like I was
Right.
working with this songwriter named R.T. Valleen, who has a band called R.T. and the 44s. And he would play like, I kid you not, like 8 gigs a week. I mean, this guy was just like the true old school working musician.
Nice.
So kind of at the same time that I was a part of this, like, you know, sort of nerdy scene of like really amazing trained musicians,
Right.
I was also a part of this scene of self-taught, you know, country and kind of old American music. There's an amazing scene of musicians in LA. Petrovic Brothers, Blasting Company, the California Feet Warmers. There's all these bands that are like unbelievable, almost like stewards of this older era of music, and kind of like the country people, not dressed up, not doing it for the like, oh, we look like we're from the 20s, doing it because they're like, we love this music from the 20s.
Cool.
So yeah, scene wise in LA, I've always felt like I've got my hands in a few different scenes, and now being the indie rock scene is like a whole different thing that I sometimes don't even feel like I'm a part of, because I'm not an indie rock cool kid. I'm just like a music nerd, you know? So yeah, the LA, there's so much in LA. Whenever people tell me they don't like it, I'm like, oh, just like go look around a different corner, you know?
Yeah. I would imagine with it being that big that it kind of,
yeah,
you can just almost choose your own adventure in some ways.
Oh, I'm constantly meeting amazing musicians that I didn't know existed. And I'm like, I've been here for 14 years. Like, how did I not know you were here? You know? So that's a true gift of that city, you know?
Yeah. Before we jump back to nerdy bass talk, you have because you have an amazing vintage bass collection. And a great tasting gear. Want to make sure to plug, because you've got your own project where you're singing and you're playing bass and maybe other things as well. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, thank you so much. That is called Jacaranda. All the vowels are A and there's a C but no K. And
thank you for saying it.
It is pronounced.
I was like, oh no, I don't know if I can say this.
No, I mean, it's funny. Pomplamoose actually was so generous in basically like producing these videos for me, where the Natalie Dawn of Pomplamoose, I think, is like, this is weird to say because she's very successful, but I also think she is like maybe one of the most slept on songwriters. Because people think of her as the person in Pomplamoose who does these cool covers. And she is amazing at that. I mean, I think some people underestimate how hard it is to do a cover and do it well, you know? But her songs are unbelievable. Like, she's an amazing songwriter. And I got to play on her record a couple years ago. And
are those the ones that are in French?
those are also amazing, and I'm playing on those. This was an album. I'm such a dope. I can't. The name is. I think it's In the Garden or something like that. It's beautiful. I'm so embarrassed that I can't remember the name of the record, but
yeah, everything she'd see. It's her vocal style is so precise that I feel like if you do not listen in, you don't realize that it's like putting on a clinic. Like it is exactly where it needs to be all the time.
And like truly all the time. Like she'll do a session and be doing scratch tracks and be kind of like, oh, it doesn't sound great. And we're all like, sounds amazing.
Nice.
But yeah, no, she's also, talk about a great bass player. She has an epic ear for bass lines. She's a really, she's one of my favorites. Like when I'm on a session with her doing her music, I'm like, tell me what you're hearing. You know, like I don't want it to be what I heard. I want to bring out what she heard because she's so interesting. Mm-hmm. Anyways, we were doing the session. The producer, John Schroeder, was like, I think you guys would dig each other's music. And, you know, encouraged me to show her one of my bizarro Bible study songs called John the Baptist. That's
great song.
Not thank you. So Pomplamoose was like, we're gonna produce these videos for you. They're so generous with their resources. It's kind of wild.
That's wonderful.
But that's all to say that in the comment section, I noticed that some people are like, it's not Jacaranda, it's Jacaranda. And I'm like, yes, if we're literally talking about the tree that it is named for, yes. But when we're talking about my weird little art project, it's Jacaranda.
Nice.
And yeah, I have some music I'm putting out. I think I'm going to aim for Leap Day. Do you guys know this next year's a leap year? Or not?
Is that? So what would that be? Is it right next to the new year? Is that leap day?
We've got 29 days in February.
Yeah.
Oh, it's cool.
I know. I mean, it only happens every 4 years. So every time it comes around, it's kind of like, what do we do again with that one?
Oh, yeah.
So I think February 29th, I'm going to put out my newest recording project. And
very cool.
Yeah, I really enjoy trying to do this thing that I should come up with a better name, but I just kind of call it like 4-dimensional improvisation, where I'm trying to surprise myself with the layer building, you know, and just kind of do takes, very much improvising, and then move on to the next take and improvise to the last take and be like, oh, weird, I didn't think it would go there. So yeah, my next project is called Music for Brushing Your Teeth. And
that's awesome.
You know, I need that in my life. I don't have any music currently for brushing my teeth, so
totally,
it's the perfect plug.
And the premise is, you know, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. It's better to brush your teeth for 30 seconds than not at all. And I can say that from experience.
That's awesome.
You don't need the whole 2 minutes. Just get in there.
Just kidding.
So did you play most instruments or a bunch of instruments on the project, or some of them?
So Jacaranda originally started as just like me writing songs and wanting to have a different name for my songwriting self.
Right. Totally understandable.
And then I want to say like my sophomore year in college, my childhood best friend, Maxime Stinnett, who is a wonderful, wonderful musician, just got really into the songs and was just kind of like, I want you to do this. Like, you should actually do this. And so he kind of became my co-conspirator. And now it's very much the type of thing where like, I'll do Jacaranda shows without Maxime or record weird little bedroom things without him. But like Jacaranda wouldn't exist without him because he's kind of the person outside of myself who is encouraging me to like keep doing it, you know?
Nice.
So he's an amazing saxophonist and clarinet player.
I was going to ask about that. In the EP you have out, there's a lot of clarinet that is beautiful.
Yes, he gets such a beautiful sound. I mean, I'm really, every time I listen to things we've done, I'm just like, Maxime. I mean, he has a day job. He works with this great company called Band Lab that I don't totally understand, but I think they're doing a lot in like the digital making music making easy and free for everyone kind of vibes.
Sweet.
Nice.
I don't know a lot, but I think they're doing good work. But so yeah, he has like a day job and just gets like the most beautiful sound out of a clarinet ever. And we have a really great rapport where like I can just be like singing him a line and he'll like learn the line right there and like record it, you know.
Isn't that the best?
Yeah, and then I can also trust him to be like, I don't know what I want here. Could you just kind of go for it? So like I'm so grateful to him. You know, I've worked with a number of people and not everyone is comfortable just being like, yeah, you're the producer or like you're the arranger and I'm happy to follow your vision, you know, and he's somebody who is so comfortable in that space that he's a joy to work with.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. Jumping to bass.
Yes.
Tell us about your gear collection, or at least your wonderful basses.
Oh, I wish I had them all with me. I will go in order of when I got them. My very first electric bass, the reason I play the bass is a beautiful 86 Fireglow Rickenbacker.
I saw it.
That's my first bass. It was actually in the family.
Nice.
Even better. That's awesome.
Yeah. It originally belonged to a young man named Chris Moore. And Chris Moore's mother is like my auntie. And Chris and I just missed each other on this plane. Like he passed away the year I was born. And this bass was originally kind of loaned to my older sister. And she was playing in like rock bands in high school. Nice. And when I was 11, I would see that bass around the house. I really actually, when I was like 10, I kind of started being like, I don't know what that is, but I want to play that. I was already playing the violin and piano and saxophone, but I wasn't very good at any of them. And so, yeah, I saw that Rickenbacker and was like, that's cool. I want to play that. And then my dad was like, that's cool. You should learn the upright bass and be in jazz band. So then I got really serious about upright bass and would just play electric bass in like, I used to play in this Latin jazz youth ensemble, play a lot of Afro-Cuban music, used to play a lot of Brazilian music. Everyone hated the Rickenbacker. Like, hated it. They just were like, that is a heinous bass to have for any of this music. Why don't you have a P bass, you know?
Do you think like visually or tonally? Because both of them are very specific.
I think visually, I think it's one of those things where once you see a Rickenbacker, if you don't like the way you think a Rickenbacker sounds, that Rickenbacker will sound the way you think a Rickenbacker sounds. Like, I think some people are just like, they see that bass and they can't unhear like fret noise and round wounds, you know? So yeah, but that bass did me good for a long time. I put some flats on it back in like, I don't know, 2012. That just sound great now. I should also say, like, it's a special Rickenbacker. I've played other Rickenbackers and been like, oh, no. This one, there's something special about this one. Then my very first touring gig was with a guy named Nick Waterhouse, and he hated my Rickenbacker more than anyone. So much so that he bought me a bass. I remember it so well. At the time, I was making like dirt money, like literal garbage. You know, I look back on that and I'm like, oh, honey, you don't go out on the road for that. But I did.
Right.
And I remember him being like, I can't afford to pay you more, but I can buy you a bass, like to get you to stop playing that Rickenbacker.
Yeah. He's like,
And
I
I
could
love-
take this off my taxes as the band.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm grateful because the bass he bought me is this. I want to say it's like a 64 or 65 old Craftsman. That I'm playing in some of those Pomplamoose videos, and the comment
Is that
section.
the hollow body?
Yes. And I
Nice.
love reading people talking about it because people will be really like, somebody will be like, wow, what is that bass? And somebody will be like, it's a Speed Demon, idiot. And I'm like, it's not a
Speed Demon.
Sir, that's very similar. Like, good guess. They were made in the same factories in the same era, but it is not a Speed Demon. So yeah. Oh my gosh.
I was gonna say this is a Speed Demon.
God.
I was wondering the same thing because I was like, headstock is not a match at all. Like you've got the string tree, but the pickup is.
But then
this is supposed to have a bunch of other crap on it, like a raised pick guard, and yours naturally kind of came like this. Which honestly, I think this looks cooler.
So, and the other thing is mine doesn't have an F hole. That's like a real F hole. It's not like painted on, right? It's like
yours is painted on?
No, mine doesn't have one at all, but
it's a real one.
So mine is actually a chambered body. It's not a true hollow body.
Okay.
Fascinating.
So to me, that's like the big difference. And also I think the body of mine, I think the old Craftsman body is smaller.
That would make sense. When I got this, I was like, the pickup sounds insane. Like it sounds so good. I don't know. I got it and I was like, I'm gonna have to swap the pickup, to make this usable. Right. But it was like awesome. I'm like fumbling with my mic for all the people who don't watch the video. But it like projects so loud with it being hollow. But a chambered, like now I want like every one I can find. Like all the companies that were making this, I want all of them.
Same. I see that bass and I'm like, oh, I want that, And I'm like, I definitely feel that way about those instruments of like, they're so cool and so vibey and so fun to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do feel like I should go on a spree where I just, anytime I see one, because they're not getting cheaper.
No, I think I got this one though for I think $300.
Oh my!
Which is
he had to. It's a whole.
Oh, we went through it.
No,
one
it's
time.
a whole thing.
I'm kind of a scumbag online if it comes to like sending like offers and like talking people down.
That person that bass is worth.
Oh no, it's even crazier than that.
But I am persistent.
It's ridiculous.
I'll put like timers, where I'm like that bass is still there, and I'll send you a message and let you know, hey, you haven't sold it yet. I guess you should probably sell it to me, kind of thing.
Epic.
He's ruthless.
we're in Kentucky. Like it's a haggling state. We're into the haggle.
We like it.
Gotta haggle.
I like that. I don't appreciate. I mean, that is definitely the thing I don't like about LA is how much the gear is. That's
dude. It's crazy.
That's the bummer thing. I mean, my bass, I want to say. I won't name names, but was sold at a store that I think is just always overpriced. Mm-hmm. But I want to say it was like $1,100 or something like that, and that was 2016 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
That's too much.
Which that's like above reverb.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So,
but I mean, look. There's always a mojo. You're right. You're totally right. There's a mojo when you play that specific one.
That's what makes it
worth
infuriating.
The money.
That you're like, not only is it overpriced, I know I can't get that somewhere else.
Totally.
It makes me mad.
Well, but I'm saying that's worth the money.
I'll pay for it. I will do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And back to, I hate to call back to this, but to the Rick thing, 100%. There is excellent quality control, but there is a mojo that varies. They're always excellent. They're always perfect. There's a different mojo. And that's the same thing. It's like, it's worth paying that extra when you know that Rick is the one for you. And it's the same with these old guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%.
And let me tell you, that Rick in the studio is always like, people love that bass because it's kind of mojo.
It's got a mojo.
Yeah. So I guess for a while, I just had the Rick and the old Craftsman, and it kind of worked because they were so different.
Yep.
I would
Yep.
do old Craftsman on my country gigs, and I used to play in this like very fun kind of like surfy pop punk band called Rachel Goodrich and the Girls.
Nice.
I would play the Rickenbacker on that. We actually had matching Fireglow Rickenbackers. That was pretty
that's
cool.
cool.
That is sick.
Like power trio with
What
like
a vibe.
Oh yeah, that band's coming back someday. So
Is the Fireglow like their version of the red yellow burst? Is that what it looks like?
I'm like, what? Is the red yellow burst their version of the Fireglow? No, I feel like the Fireglow doesn't have a lot of yellow, but like, yeah, I mean, it goes to natural, I guess.
Now
I wish I had
to look at it. No, it's fine.
Oh, he'll look at it.
He'll figure it out.
Yeah, any gear ever. I'll be Googling that.
Oh,
cool.
Yeah.
I'll be Googling that. I love that.
We were kind of, we were looking down your Instagram, kind of be like, oh, that. Okay, cool. Like we gotta get to the amp, gotta get to the Gibson.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so what comes next?
So then next I got my beloved P bass, baby's first P bass. Total fluke during the pandemic. An engineer that I'm friends with, and actually the guy who engineered my Jacaranda little EP. He hit me up one day. He knew that I wanted a P bass, and he was like, I've got this friend who used to be a gear dealer, but now he only does mid-century modern furniture. But his friend found a 71 P bass in a pawn shop. You should go look at it. Nice. He's willing to sell it for cheap. And I think at the time the guy was like, he's willing to let it go for like $2,400. And I was like, okay, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
And that day I actually was filming a music video for Tim Heidecker off of his Fear of Death record at I think it was at Valentine Recording Studios. And they have an early 70s P bass that I've played a bunch on sessions. I know this bass. So I'm like playing that bass and I'm kind of like, yeah, like it sounds good, but it doesn't feel great. If this P bass doesn't feel better than this one, like I'm not going to get it. I had like I got to take a different P bass on a test run. Then I went and played it and the guy was like, no, I can't sell it for 24. I got it for 24. And I was like, oh. And he was like, do you have any mid-century modern furniture that you would trade to get the price down? And I was like, no, absolutely not. I get my furniture from, the thrift store.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Said, do you have any instruments you would sell? And it was like, no. But I guess I did skip a bass, which is when I was playing in Weyes Blood, I got this like seafoam or sage sparkly green P bass, like the lowest low of a P bass, like whatever the like Player series, the cheapest one. They gave it to me for free. It was like the first time anyone gave me an instrument, and I was so stoked. And I was like, I have this P bass that you could maybe sell for like $500. And so he took the P bass, took, like, I don't know, $400 or $500 off the price of the old P bass. Sold the new P bass. I was devastated because I was like, that's a sentimental instrument. What was I thinking? Then someone on Instagram hit me up and was like, I have your bass. Oh. And I was kind of like, let me know if you want to sell it back to me. And they were like, no, it's great. I like it. And I was like, okay.
No, thank you. Just wanted you to know.
Yeah. So that bass is being loved. But that's how I got my P bass, which is that bass.
Is that still the one you're playing? Like, was that the one I saw you play?
Yes. Talk about mojo. That bass, the wear on it, like it's kind of devastating to me. You can tell that someone loved it. The other crazy thing is the dealer was like, the only weird thing about this P bass is it doesn't have a P bass case. For whatever reason, it came with a Rickenbacker hard case. And I was like,
dope.
It's perfect.
Great. Let's go. That's perfect.
Yeah.
So like whoever pawned that bass maybe pawned a P bass and a Rick and came back for the Rick. I don't know.
Yeah. Dude, that's sick.
Funny. Yeah.
So it's a sunburst.
Yes.
Is it rosewood veneer board?
That's such a great question.
Oh, that's fine. Is it dark or is it light?
It's dark.
Okay, so it's a rosewood board.
Does that seem right for that era? I don't know.
Yeah, well, there's a whole thing where like the 62s are worth a lot because they got a big hunkin' piece of rosewood, and then CBS took over, and apparently the quality control wasn't great. I played more than a few amazing CBS instruments. Luckily, we need the collectors to still think that, so that maybe we can buy one day. But they started putting less rosewood on, so it was kind of like a maple neck, but it looked like a rosewood neck.
Okay.
And then people didn't like that and they went back. So I don't know what year they started going back and doing veneer boards. I will say this, and maybe bass nerds will get mad. I've played 62s. I played 60s. I have a custom-made P bass that's a 60s copy that has a huge chunk of rosewood. I can't tell a difference between a rosewood and a veneer, and sometimes even a maple neck. Like it's cool, but like
I almost think mine might be a maple neck. I don't know. This is stuff I should look into.
It'd be like maple on the back, so like blonde on the back, and then like the darker wood on the fretboard.
I think that's what's going on for mine.
That's probably what it is.
I love the neck. That bass. I recently got some work done on it, and like it's a really happy place, and it makes me.
Was that when we chatted because it started doing something weird while you were on tour?
Yes, that was bad. I ended up having to get it refretted. Frets were pretty epically worn down. I'm telling you, whoever owned that bass played it.
Nice.
I got it refretted. The fret job was good, but the setup just wasn't quite right. And then midway through that tour, like, wow, September, October in this country was hot.
Yeah.
and my bass just kind of freaked out. And so I ended up going to Heyday in Asheville, and they did a great kind of just rush job.
And rush
then
setup.
Yeah, just kind of, they were like, yeah, these basses, I mean, the P bass fully bottomed out. By the time we got to New York, it was just like, I can't.
Oh, no.
So I recently got some really good work done in LA, and I'm feeling happy.
Nice.
And also on this, the only bass I have with me today, it's my beloved G3.
Okay. Tell us about this.
This one, I first thought that I wanted either a grabber or a ripper when I was doing Natalie Dawn's record at this place, 64 Sound. Pierre, who owns that studio, has a very cool ripper. And we're doing her album all week. I brought all my basses. I was feeling very like, my collection rules. I've got a Rick, I've got a P bass, I've got this.
Your collection does rule. You're right.
Thank you. I was feeling good about it. And then I played the Ripper, and I was like, whoa, this is weird. I want this. So then I would say like maybe 2 years later, I was on tour with Tim Heidecker and the Very Good Band. And it was a bus tour that began and ended in LA. And so we were all kind of like, we're going gear shopping, that's like the vibe. So the guitar player, Connor Gallagher, or Catfish, as the people call him, he knew that I wanted one of these. And when we were in Chicago, he was like, yo, Chicago Music Exchange, they've got a G3. You might want to go check it out.
Very tempting.
And I checked it out, and I was A-Bing it with a couple other basses, and just ultimately kind of fell in love. I'm like, I really love how much this bass is just like a hunk of wood, like it is such a tree of an instrument.
Is it heavy?
It is, but I feel like not considering how much it is just a tree, I feel like it's all my basses. I feel like I kind of lucked out. Like they're not too heavy.
Right.
I mean, they're heavy. It is heavy, but like reasonably so,
Yeah. I feel like my maximum is like unless it just is doing something that I can't explain an instrument. I tend to not buy an instrument over 10 or 11 pounds.
Yeah, that's
But
smart.
vintage stuff is a whole nother, it can speak to you in such a way that you're like, I gotta have that, whatever that is. And that probably has a downside, which means weight, or that has a,
Yes. That is definitely what's going on here.
This is so funny. I always love the moment in our podcast that it just plunges itself into the nerdiest form. Because when we start talking about string gauge or like, what's your fretboard radius? Let's just start talking about it. Like, I mean,
that's
here
one of
now.
the only things that I don't know is like radius of fretboard. It bores me.
It's called
so
feel.
fast.
If it feels good, I'm playing it. So
Yeah. I'm right there with you.
Love
I'm like,
it.
it's heavy but not too heavy.
Yeah.
Is perfect weight.
Yeah, the Gibson basses are so cool because it's very much like, it could look to the common person, could look pretty, that's a bass. But to a person that is playing, when you see a Gibson, the Ripper, the Grabber, the G3, it's like, there's something about that is like eye-catching and just beautiful. And like the way that the body's so just, you're right, a hunk of wood. You're just like, yes.
Why aren't they still making those? I don't, like, it's so iconic.
I know. I wonder.
Is it just like a special, super expensive thing that they'll do every now and then? Or I don't know, but it's like, that's a bass people should be playing.
Mm-hmm. So,
yeah.
Oh, you go ahead. You good?
Oh, no.
So we were talking about as we were looking at it. So he was like, she's got that grabber, and I was like, I actually think it's potentially technically not a grabber, though it's the same bass. Like the only difference is the pickups, right? Am I wrong here?
No, you are totally correct. It is a G3.
Yeah.
So from what I understand, the grabber has the movable pickup.
Oh, right, because you grab it.
I think was like a funny idea.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure just people were like, I actually don't want that.
Right.
Sure.
Could you just do 3 pickups instead? I mean,
or like, here's the good spots. So let's just make that into a bass.
Totally, which is funny because I feel like sometimes, I mean, I can't even really think of like, I don't know, I feel like when you see people Googling it, you'll actually see grabber G3. Like people kind of lump them together.
So Ripper would be 2 pickup, grabber's 3 pickup. Sorry.
And also I think it might be because of the headstock, because this is the grabber headstock.
I think it is a grabber. Like everything is a grabber minus the pickups.
It's a grabber. Yeah, I think it's
minus
like
pickups.
The name might technically be like Grabber 3.
Grabber 3, the G.
G3.
G's
That
got to
would
come
explain
somewhere.
the G.
I mean, it says G3 like on the headstock. So I think they're like, it's a Grabber 3, but that sounds dumb. Sound any dumber than calling it the Grabber? I don't know, but it's like,
I think it's cool.
It is cool. You're right. I mean, Grabber, the Ripper. It's like so 80s. I mean,
Ripper is such a great name.
Yeah,
I'd rather be ripping than grabbing any day.
I know.
Like that's so weird.
I know. I'm like, I hate to say it, but I do agree. I'm like, I wish this was a Ripper just so I could.
R3.
Yeah, but it's cool. It's a G3.
No,
that's awesome.
That's super cool. I like the flexibility too, where you're like, I don't know, I got 3 pickups. Like, sweet.
Oh, you good?
Oh yeah. Oh, I was gonna say that this is like the most versatile sounding bass I have. I mean, it's a very like mid-rangey tone. I mean, when Madison and I did our first rehearsal, I was kind of like, are you cool with how this bass sounds? Because I'm pretty sure her bass player Daniel like rocks a P bass the whole set and it sounds epic and beautiful.
Yeah.
We were on such a long tour that I wasn't totally comfortable just bringing one bass. And I wanted to bring 2 basses where like either one of them could be played the whole show.
Right.
So yeah, the P bass and this G3 is what I ended up bringing. But yeah, I feel like when I'm bringing this on with a new artist, I always kind of do a temp check of like, do you feel okay about how this sounds? Because it is different. Very mid-rangey.
It's rock and roll. Yeah. I mean, a P bass is rock and roll too, but it takes on a different character with everything having flats feel like the Gibson is a little bit more rock and roll than a P bass with flats, and maybe not as rock and roll as a P bass with rounds.
Totally. When I got this bass, it had rounds on it. I've become such a flat wound gal. I keep telling myself I'm going to have one bass with rounds, which actually brings me to my last bass that I do not understand yet at all. We've got some learning to do, me and this bass, but I got an EBO.
Oh, the Mudbucker.
The SG bass, man.
Isn't that how everyone feels about them?
Right. Like that's why.
Yeah. They're like, I'm
not sure. So kind of and Tim Heidecker's very good band. The guitar player and I kind of got into this hilarious mode where like part of our thing is we bring too many instruments on tour.
Nice.
And we coordinate our instruments. He ended up getting an S1, which is like the sister guitar to this.
Okay.
He's got a Strat, I've got the P bass, and then I would play the Rick when he plays his SG. That was like our rock and roll combo.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would be like, oh, how cool would it be if I had an SG bass, And then we were in Nashville. Not a good place to buy an instrument, but they had over at what's that place?
Carter's Vintage.
Carter's. Yeah. They had like 3 or 4 EBOs and EB3s. I can't remember not a gear nerd.
Me
so
I might have played that. I saw you buy it on Instagram, and I was in Nashville within a month or so, and I might have sat there and played the same. Yeah. We're only 4 hours away, so I feel like I'm there 4 or 5 times a year at least.
That's amazing.
Playing.
I mean, I'll say the one I ended up buying is the first one I played because it was so beautiful and vibey. Like the wood was just like aged in this really epically beautiful way. Like as you can tell, I'm not a gear nerd, but I am like an instrument nerd. Like I love an instrument. And so I was really drawn to that bass, but the setup was whack. And it was
they got some whack setups in there.
Once you got about here, it was like, we're talking like a quarter tone flat, It was just
very cool.
It was just bad. And I think they wanted $3,200 for it. And I was like, yeah, there's no way.
Their prices are bad.
Well, sorry, Carter's about to blow up your spot. But I played all the other ones and was like, hey, man, I still really liked that first one. And so, like, I went to the guy and was like, I love this bass. I'm leaving town today. The setup is really bad. Like, I wouldn't pay $3,200 for a setup like this. And he goes into the computer and he's like, we could do it for 21. And I was like,
What?
They had a third margin to play with?
Good. That's good to know. I swear.
I'm like, I'm sorry, Carter's, but if you're going to play it like that, the people should know.
Oh my God. Talk about premium.
I played almost every instrument they had there. They had one fully hollow body Gibson, like it was the red, almost like a 335, that I thought was the best playing instrument there. I might be exaggerating, but in my head, I feel like it was like $15,000. Like an absolutely insane. It was more than the vintage P bass, and the P bass was like 10, and maybe they had a jazz bass that was like 12. And I'm like, and they just didn't feel good.
Hey, look, if you're down in Nashville, charge what you want, I guess.
I
mean, they'll still be, I guarantee you, those basses are there right now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because if you have that kind of money to play, I don't know. Who knows? But they did do a setup on that bass, and it was one of those funny things where they did the setup and brought it back, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is perfect. I wouldn't pay still wouldn't pay more than, just want to be clear, it's perfect, but it's not great.
Yeah.
And, my thing with the vintage gear has always been like, well, this is my investment.
Right.
Am I ever going to be able to sell any of these instruments, like spiritually? Maybe not.
Sure.
But yeah, I gotta say, if anyone has like tips and tricks, the EBO is still, we have not figured each other out yet. I think that's the bass that I need to have rounds on to kind of cut the mud a little bit. And it's such a beautiful piece that I'm like, I probably shouldn't mess with it too much. But part of me is like, should I just put a different pickup on this bass? Like, I don't know. Right. It feels so great to play. And there's something about it that's almost like synth-like. Like you can get this sound out of it that is almost like a synth bass. And I'm like, I feel like there's potential there, but like I have not figured it out yet.
Is it 2 pickup, 1 pickup?
One
pickup.
Just
so right on that neck, yeah.
Right there. You're like, I'm really dumbfounded by that bass.
Funny.
And somebody's probably going to be like, you paid $2,000 for that? I don't know. She's a beautiful specimen. 1964.
Nice.
Oh my gosh. But to round out the collection
Great
that
year.
you've got, though.
Rounds out the collection. Yeah, great year for Mudbuckers.
That's just a cool overall collection. So I got to point out, there's one that doesn't live in your collection that we always tussle about. So you don't have a jazz bass.
Oh my gosh. I owned a jazz bass for about a year. I bought it from like a friend of my dad's, I think for $900 at a time in my life where I was like, I think I made payments to him because I was like, I don't have $900 in my bank account. And that would have been like before I had the P bass. I think that was just when I had the Rick and the Craftsman. And I never played it. I think I played it on one gig, and after a year was just like, it was like the 90s maybe. Like it wasn't anything super special. It was just a 90s jazz bass.
Just a jazz.
Yeah, I feel like I never liked the shape of that body, and that is truly what kept me a jazz bass. I would always see it and be like, I don't love that. I like the way a P bass looks. Like, so I'm excited and open to the era in my life when I realize what's cool about a P bass. I have one of those like PJ basses that I got on a Waxahatchee tour. Like Fender gave us, we wanted to have matching white instruments, and so they gave me one of those white PJ basses that I haven't played since Waxahatchee's St. Cloud tour. So
yeah.
But yeah, I'm like, what is so great about a jazz bass?
There's a certain thing in my head that this is very specific with me growing up, and it's not even a particularly nice jazz bass necessarily, but I watched The Killers, their guy, Mark Stormer, I believe his last name is, was always playing a Geddy Lee black jazz bass through a high watt. And that's one of those tones that have stuck out in my head where it's like, I need that in my collection. I don't even know if when I play that, it will feel like me and I'll feel at home in it, but I want it, Because
it's got the pickup like very cool.
Yeah, all the Geddy Lee stuff is really just a 70s style jazz bass where they move that pickup more bridge-ish. I want that eventually. I'd love a real 70s jazz bass because the prices are not good, but they're not insanely bad because most people are like, that's the one you don't want. The pickup's close. And I'm like, well, if I'm going there, let's go there.
Yeah.
You had one you hated.
That's funny. Yeah, I had a 75 reissue. It's like I love the idea of a jazz bass, and every time I touch it, you're right. You just don't reach for it for the gig. You're like, I'm taking the P bass.
Never once have I been hired for that sound.
No, it's like it can be any sound. Like it can do all these things. It can do the country, it can do the modern, it can do whatever, it can do the vintage thing. It never agreed with me. It never agreed with what I had. It didn't feel like it talked to me. It didn't feel like it, like the way a P bass just kind of feels like it like hits you back. Like it feels like it yells at you a little bit.
Yeah.
When you barely touch it, it like kind of barks back. And I'm like, I love that. The jazz felt the dead opposite. So I traded it for a Rick. Yes.
Really? What color is your Rick?
Black. Oh yeah.
Oh.
I've got the full pickup cover on it and everything. I just learned the inconvenience to love, you know? I love it.
Me too. Mine has the pickup cover, and people are always like, you got to take that off. And I'm like, no.
Who were you to tell me?
Because I learned to play electric on that.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, you just get used to it. Also, fun fact is I can't slap. Like I cannot. And it's because a Rickenbacker was my first bass.
It will not let you.
Nice, yeah.
Room on that neck to slap.
Yeah.
Like even my friends who are good at it, when they would pick up the Rick, they'd be like, "No,
Yeah.
What do I do?"
Yeah.
So
yeah.
There's this band. I don't know if you're into this. These like indie rock guys called Hers. It was like a duo. They tragic passing. But they do like basically just like drum loops, bass and guitar. Is all they do. And I was watching him. He plays this black Rick. Well, I think but his Rick is his thing, right?
Yeah.
He plays pick always up on the other side of the pickup cover, like I mean, like an inch
back
away
there.
from that saddle, and just gets this wild tone. And I'm like, Rick's just brings something out of people that it just you can't get from other basses. There's just there's a thing. There's a way it makes you play, and I'm like, that's it. So in the last, few months, I've been like trying to do this pick on the other side thing, right?
Oh my gosh, the pick on the Rick, I haven't done yet. I got kind of once I started touring, I got really, really into playing with the pick. At first, on the old Craftsman, I got really into like playing, palm muting and playing with. And then I don't know who I got into playing the pick with. I don't think it was Weyes Blood. Like maybe it was Waxahatchee, but there was a point where I kind of fell in love with that sound.
Oh yeah.
But I haven't done it on the Rick yet. I think because of the pickup guard, I can't figure out. I'm sort of like when I'm playing with the pick, I really need to be anchored. I'm like not that good. Sometimes I reach for the pick because I kind of want that limitation, like
Totally.
I want to be forced to kind of simplify and really make good choices.
That's funny because when I think of picking a Rick, I'm like Lemmy, Sunset Strip, Motorhead, go crazy.
Totally. So
I'm the dead opposite. I'm like, if I'm playing a pick with the Rick, I know.
Yeah.
But he was too, kinda.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That's a special. You guys, you represent two sides of the lineage.
Yeah,
that's so funny.
So, from looking at the Instagram for the whatever, you don't seem like a super pedal person. Is that correct? Or
no, that's correct. I acquired my very first pedals quite recently. I shouldn't say that. I bought, like fuzz pedals and stuff in the past, but just would never get that into them. I've always kind of been a like bass straight into the amp kind of gal. But yeah, playing with Madison, there were a couple things that I knew I would want. Well, really just one song that I knew I wanted an octave pedal for. And then another couple spots where I'm like, an overdrive would probably be the move, but I don't have that right now. And I do have just like a little big muff, so I'll just bring that.
Right.
I was very, very lucky to have told my pal Tal Wilkenfeld about my predicament that I was like, I don't have any pedals. I need an octave pedal. And she was like, you don't have any pedals? Like, what's wrong with you? And she hooked it up and, or I should say EBS hooked it up and sent me an octave pedal that I really need to publicly thank them for. So this is step one of publicly thanking them for my first octave pedal.
Very cool.
Their octave is one of the only like new currently made octave pedals that I think are like super cool.
Yeah. I do deeply like want to become a pedal person. I think that's like on my horizon. And I was like checking out, the thing that seemed the coolest to me that I really wanted is like one of those Tim LaFave pedals. I love Tim.
The Capo? The
I
new
don't even
Tim LaFave? Or was it the Tim LaFave Octave?
Yes, that's like $1,000.
Yeah,
And
3-leaf audio.
He loves Tim.
LaFave. It's
Tim's the
like
best.
favorite.
I love
They fuse his name and like favorite or something. Octave.
Yes. Yeah.
Octave.
Yes.
I also wanted that. Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
make some more of those. The 3-leaf audio guy's not going to listen to this, but
I know.
what's your deal, man? Those things are so high on reverb. Just make a couple more. They're
Make a
awesome.
couple more.
No.
That's cool.
Tim is totally the one. Actually, my oldest sister is a classical violinist, and she is the concertmaster of the Rochester Philharmonic. And maybe I want to say like 10 years ago, Chris Bodie was playing with her orchestra, and Tim was in her band. And
he's such a monster.
Or in his band, sorry. And my sister was like, "Oh my gosh, you're a bass player in LA? My little sister is a bass player. Like, can I connect you guys?" And yeah, Tim was so cool. I was like, yeah, not touring or anything yet. And I went over to his house and did kind of like a jam lesson. And yeah, he's amazing.
He plays so effortless, and not only is he an insane player, then he brings out pedals. And I can't really think of pedals without thinking of how like his ear for choosing effects is so good. And then he'll turn them all off and melt your face. Because a lot of times you're like, or like for me, you're like, oh, that dude's compensating. He's using a bunch of pedals or whatever and doing this. He doesn't really know how to play. And then he will rip the most insane jazz solo.
Yeah. No, he's special. He's a special dude.
Yeah. I was listening a bunch to the last David Bowie album, Black Star. And so I was watching like him play some of it too, because he got picked up for that album, and it kind of has that like jazz meets electronic background thing. But then I went to watch it and I was like, man, how is he plucking this? It has such a specific sound. And he was upstroking everything. He was going like playing like this the whole time. And every time I see him, I'm like, you're playing the bass in a way I would never expect it done. And it always has better results than I feel like I could get.
Yeah.
It's just, he just innovatively grabs stuff.
He's got the sauce, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's one of the big ones. I love his work. So simmering down a little bit, but real quick, I have a couple questions I'd love to get through. It seems like a lot of the people in LA / your scene / the recording studio scene are super flat wound vintage people.
Yeah.
When you showed up, like what are some of the things that you experience when you show up at a studio on that side of the country? Are you plugging into a B15? Are you plugging into a console? What's your day like?
Honestly, a lot of stuff I have done in LA, we are just kind of like DI into the console. Mm-hmm. I feel like I go to a fair amount of studios where like there isn't an amazing bass amp option,
right?
Or there isn't an amazing bass amp isolation option. I don't know if that's probably just like the nature of the things I've been doing. It's been a lot more of that than it has been like actual like plugging into like a cool vibey amp. I mean, that I've certainly done plenty of sessions where that's happening, but I feel like lately it's been a lot of just like straight into the console,
which is a great sound. Most records. Yeah. I don't know if I could say most, but like that is a standard amazing sound. It's actually a benefit to bassists.
It's like that's why we get the vibey bass that we like so much, because that is providing the sound.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because it feels like everyone I see is doing the P bass flat wound. It's almost like it got cool again.
I know,
which I love.
I almost want, like, I maybe have some hint of a contrarian in me, because part of me is like, I want to make rounds cool. Like, everyone's playing flats, myself included, you know?
Right.
But I don't know. It's just so luxurious.
Yeah. I've been trying to force myself into the round or the flat world rather. Like I said, guitar guy. I always wanted. I just want rounds. So my Rick, I got like Rickasound or the Rotosounds, and I love that alive thing. But most of my gigs are country, so I've got a P with flats with the labellas, and I'm just like, all it does is make me want a P with rounds just so I can play rock and roll. Like I just sitting there wanting. I'm like, man, this isn't doing it for me. I want to love it. I do like the sound. It's right for a lot of stuff I do, but I'm like, nah, I need to get back into the round thing.
I love that. I'm so like inspired by that. I'm like,
I was always rounds until the last maybe 6 months. I finally found a flat wound that I really jive with, which is the Ernie Ball Cobalt flats, because they advertise them as flats that sound like rounds. So I've always really liked kind of a brighter, more articulate thing. And I can attest that to me, they're the best of both worlds, because I have labellas on one of my P basses that it's just not working. However, the labellas on my K Speed Demon are a match made in heaven. Mm-hmm. And then my particular P bass, I think it's just like telling me that it needs to be a round wound bass. Because sometimes they do that, you know?
They do that. Yeah, that's what the EBO is doing with me for sure. I put flats on it right away because I was like, that's why we don't understand each other. You got rounds on it. And I feel like the bass has been like, no.
Yeah.
That was not correct.
Kind of my journey, too, has been, I've always been super nervous about fret noise, or super, again, because I was always playing ground wound stuff. And starting to get more into studio. I blit the studio, and so I'm like, okay, instead of just like killing myself every day for this particular sound that kind of sounds like flat wounds anyway, I just need to get a bright set of flats. And since I've done that, like even my technique has been able to relax a little bit because I'm not afraid of every moment. And I was never really taking advantage of round wounds because I was too nervous someone would hear it be clicky or aggressive or whatever. When now it's like, I need to have an aggressive, fun round wound bass instead of having a sucky round wound bass, or, you know, like it just, I was using the wrong tool for whatever, you know what I mean? So that's kind of my latest, where it's like, I need a really good, go back, get a round wound instrument. And I'm obsessed with these old Yamaha basses. That's kind of my thing. And they're expensive and they're rising pretty fast, but they're not like crazy expensive yet. So, because I was always round wound and like 5 strings. I loved 5-string instrument. And that's how I started playing, especially when a singer would change a key, or when I was playing jazz or whatever. Since I never learned all of those things in the 4-string environment, I always got really attached to having 5 strings. I only have one 5-string. Everything else I have is 4, but the Yamaha BB5000, it's the first ever production 5-string. It's from like 82. And then people loved them and they immediately changed it and started making it not in Japan anymore, and supposedly they're less good. So I was able to get my hands on, that's like my vintage-ish instrument, but that's like kind of my main voice. And it is, the neck is skinny. Like they took their biggest 4-string neck and they slapped 5 strings on it because there was just no like standard. And I love that. I hate grabbing a 5-string and the fretboard being that big. I want to have this little thing. And then go to a 4-string when I want like a bigger, you know. Anyway, that's I keep talking about it. I need to not talk about it.
He's
anymore.
legally obligated to talk about that, and then he'll mention the Noble DI,
Right,
and then we can just
let's
get
talk
on
about
with
the
it,
Noble.
right? Yeah. So I will say we will let you go. We'll get out of here soon, but on our way down, let's hit amp real quick because I was super fascinated with it, and then we'll hit some. If you got any recommendations for us, we love taking music recs or movies or whatever. So
art, whatever.
Let's hit the amp. It looked very, very cool.
That amp actually belongs to Tim Heidecker's tour manager,
Nice.
JP Hassan. It's like I want to say it's a 60s Fender Showman.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah, and yeah, that was such a lucky thing because I also like have not. That's something I haven't invested in yet. Is like a really great vibey amp. That's probably got to be like next on the list for me. Because like the folks I tour with, like Waxahatchee's got a big old new Fender amp, and gosh, all the people I've ever toured with have like either backlined or bought their own amps. So I've kind of never needed it. And then when I'm in town, I'm doing things that mostly call for like a small combo or something.
Right.
So yeah, Tim's tour manager, that amp is like his baby. And when we were gearing up for our first tour together, I should say that whole Tim's thing is like so special. I feel so lucky that right now in my life, I only am working with artists who I love deeply as humans, and I love their music.
That's where you want to be.
And I love the people they work with. I love their teams. Like that's rare. I've found So Tim's whole team is amazing. And as we were gearing up for our first tour and we had our backline conversation, the TM was just like, I'm just going to put this out there. You want to bring my big ass amp, you are welcome to.
Yeah.
That's
awesome. That
awesome.
thing's fun. That thing plus the EBO was insane. Like I was like, this is too much. Like too much low end, too much power,
That's
too
so
much
cool.
mud. But yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. I feel like it's a scary world. I don't take an amp out. I'm just DIs. I have like just little preamps and stuff. It's kind of a scary world because you get a bass and it's got some noises. You can try and work it out. You get an amp that's giving you fits. It could be anything. I mean, it's a totally different level of like if it's getting beat up in a trailer, if it's getting pushed by the wrong person, if it's getting hot, if it's getting cold. Like, do you find any of that with your current rig? Temperamental?
Yeah, with JP's definitely. She's an old gal, and there will be days where I'd be like, I need a screwdriver so that I can like tighten all the screws on the back of the cab to make sure that's not what the rattle is. When we were in Austin, we had to kind of get some rush work done on it. I think maybe just wasn't a tube went out. It was something weirder than that. But so I love that amp, and I'm very grateful to JP for letting me use it. It's very appropriate for Tim's band and that show, and how we love having this like guitar center like display of like the guitar players' guitars and my basses, and that's really fun. But then on Madison's tour, I was using her bass player's rig because I ended up doing like the first 6 weeks of the tour, and he did the last 2 weeks. And so he was kind enough to let me borrow his rig, which is just an Aguilar, with like I can't remember what size the cab was, like 210s or I don't know. Can't remember. Well, don't quote me. But an Aguilar cab.
I remember, but I don't.
I was like, oh, this rules.
Yeah, cool.
Very solid.
And you had it was the digital head, right? It was the little head, and I think maybe the bigger cab, like a 410.
Yeah, and it was just like, this is so easy, and there's so much clarity.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've been in a real like vintage amps and like Fender amps kind of world. Like, don't get me wrong, and Ampegs. Like, don't get me wrong, I love all those things, but playing that Aguilar for 6 weeks, I was kind of like,
it's pretty nice.
Rules, pretty cool. Nice, pretty dependable, pretty clear.
Love it. Yeah,
and not that heavy.
Totally.
I'm waiting for there to be a good combo. I mean, I know we talked about talking talking smack on gear, but I'm like, I hate those Fender Rumbles. Ampeg made one that I tried out. They suck as well. I mean, they're great because they're so light, and that is
Right.
really important. And I'm sure they're fine going direct, like if, just taking the direct sound, but I'm like, they sound so bad. Right?
It's so, it's just weird. The world of combo amps is so weird because I want there to be a really high end small amp.
Yes.
And it seems like they can only make them cheap ish, cheap and loud. And it's like, no, I want premium and like moderately loud.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to go back to throwing a mic on my cab instead of having a bass rig and be like, don't mic it, take this DI signal. I was I was separated, the way I was doing some mega churches and other things where it just, no amps on stage became a thing for me very early. And so I've always kind of been obsessed with like, what is my DI? Is it a tube DI? Is it whatever? Here's my Noble plug. Or the capo or like all the Sans amp, all that kind of stuff where it's like, here's my flavor, take it from here. Don't worry about the amp. That's just like a big stage wedge. But now that I have a 70s B15 and I have a 70s Ampeg SVT, now that I've kind of experienced both of those, I'm like, dude, I want to throw mics on my amp again. Like, what happened to us?
Totally.
Who allowed the separation of bass player from amp?
It is this weird kind of, sometimes I feel like, this like ancient battle between random sound person and random bass player. And both parties being like, I don't trust you.
Right.
They're like, I'm not going to mic your amp. I'm going to take your direct out, and then you being like, okay, or then what are you going to do to it?
Right.
It's like,
compress it 3 times.
None of your business.
Get
bent.
I'm honestly, my beef lately is with too much low end. I feel like everywhere you go, everyone's like pumping everything through the subs so hard.
Yep.
For music that I don't think needs that. I mean, and I think this is kind of like the going back to miking your amp. Like, that's cool that we live in a world where we can send out this epic bass sound. But I would kind of like to get into a world where like sound engineers are not afraid to be like, we're not even going to go there at all. Like, don't even use the subs. No, I don't know if that's even a good idea.
No,
but
when I was running front of house, now I have a different approach in the studio. I would not put the bass guitar in the subs. I would put the kick in the subs. Now, not to be too nerdy, some people have like a full range system and it's not a like on or off sub thing. I had a big system where I could turn the subs on or off or send things independently to the subs. I would never put bass in it, and it always sounded the best because to me, bass is about that low and upper mid chunk. It's like the kick goes like this, and then that's where the bass goes, and then everything else goes right there. And in recorded music, I think the kick goes like this, and the bass gets to be a little here and here.
Totally.
And it's just a bummer when you roll up and you can't hear the bass guitar, and a lot of that's because they're only using it for low end instead of letting it kind of be that meat stuff. Because a great example is older music like a Motown, where you're like, that is a bass driven song,
right?
And you kind of need that's that key area. You can still modernize that too. Like in a modern mix, if you just choose, if it sounds right, there's always exceptions. You can still do that and have a mix where you hear every instrument clearly.
Yes. I mean, while we're on this tip, I feel like I have to throw Brad Cook's name into the conversation. I know we're winding down, but Brad Cook produced Waxahatchee's last record, her newest record. He also plays bass on them. He is absolutely one of my favorite bass players ever. He's so good, and he does a lot of stuff where like it is not low end bass, and so taking that stuff live I mean, we're lucky that in Waxahatchee we're bringing our own front of house, but it's like that's also music that's like it would be kind of silly to have the bass be this like subby low thing because that's like that's not what they did when they made the record, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
And also, like, it's fun to bring a Moog.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's also the next thing I want to.
Dude, yes.
Do it.
I've been bringing a sub 37 out for like 2 songs, like 3 notes in the same like patch. And again, this comes from someone who plays a 5-string. To me, sometimes I may be emulating a Moog, but most of the time it's just helping me get somewhere else on the neck.
Yeah.
And then I go for the octave pedal or the Moog when I want to go down. But it's a fun place to explore. But maybe we'll save that for next time.
Yeah. You know, wrapping that all up, I mean, by our influences like Paul McCartney. I mean, dude, he's playing guitar range stuff. I mean, he's all over it. It's not blowing your speakers up, but it still sounds full. So I think it's John Paul Jones is my guy, and he's not playing subby low B. Like it's not rattling your car, but it's perfect. It's dead on. So love that stuff. Yeah, I guess
it's been super awesome to have you. We're so honored that you took the time out of your schedule to chat.
I'm so honored that you asked. My first space podcast.
Heck yeah. There we go.
There's not many of us.
There's not many of us, and there's Anyway, we won't talk smack. Bass is weird because it's like you get the magazines and who they like, and it's always kind of the same people. And then you get like the people who are working that you don't always find out about until they're like too big, you know, like unobtainably big. It's a world out there, but you know, we're navigating it together. So thanks everybody who's listening at home or watching. This was a longer one and it was worth it because it was dope.
Super cool. Thanks so much.
Follow us on social media. Follow Ellie on social media. Yeah. See you later.